We're here to fix the machine.
Battlefield Live.
You're listening to the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey on WGSO 990 AM. Welcome to the program. It's our first program, and really excited to be broadcasting on the airwaves of the big 990 AM WGSO. Trey Roberts and Chris Pilier in studio, and this is our first show on the station. If you want to be a part of the program, you can give us a call, ask us anything. We know it all. I'd be happy to share our incredible wealth of knowledge with you. And, of course, as always, you can call us at 504-556-9696. So, Chris, here we are. First show on 990. Ready to get this thing kicked off?
There's nothing like the fresh feeling of trying to figure out how to park and where to park.
Right.
And to come into a new studio. But it is very cool.
So one of the things that, just to kind of give you an idea about Chris and I have been doing radio via internet, kind of more podcasting, I guess you could say. We've recently been doing some things where we are live and can be listened to live on the internet. You can check all that out at lanterns.buzz. That's our website where we write, where we broadcast, where it's basically our home. It's our home on the internet, lanterns.buzz. But we've done some different things. We are both charter members of the Greater New Orleans Tea Party. We met at the Tea Party. It's kind of a natural progression. I mean, Chris, I don't know about you. I remember being at the Tea Party, looking around, and I saw another guy who had dark-colored hair. And I thought, hey, there's a guy. That's the other guy who's young like me.
But like there was one other one?
Yeah, it was just you and me. I don't remember anybody else at the early Tea Party rallies. That I think we were the only ones without an AARP card.
You think?
I think so.
You know,
Except for Mary.
I'm about to say, if Mary's listening, she's gonna be very upset.
That's right. I don't know, Mary, because was it 51? No, Mary's not in 50.
We got Brandy and Scott. I don't know if they were there yet.
They weren't there yet.
Okay.
They weren't there yet, but they made their presence felt once they finally did get there.
Heck yeah, she put the hammer down.
I mean, she just wasn't playing. But so we met there, and Andre Harper. If you remember Andre Harper, he came in town and was a guest speaker. Wrote a book about like how to deal with the liberal media,
right? And
was promoting that book, and we brought him, and we started talking about doing radio, and he was like, "Well, hey, you should start your own show." And I was like, "Oh, why didn't I think of that?"
That's right.
And I was like, "Dude, how are we gonna? We can't break into radio. I'm not interning for like 6 years, and I'm not joining a union, and then hope
it wasn't a career thing.
I'm not moving to Waco, Texas, to do radio. You know what I'm saying?" But anyway, so we started doing a little blog talk here, blog talk there, and we got hooked up with the Tea Party Patriots doing a national show, and then very quickly thereafter got kicked off of radio.
Yeah, let's try not to make that happen again.
Well, I don't think that's a problem. So we got kicked off of there, and then we just we were talking about communism too much. Communism.
Well, the thing is, I think it's relative to talk about why we get kicked off, because we were talking about the truth. We were talking about
the truth will get you set free.
That's right. Yeah, it'll get you set free. The bottom line is that there was a group that we were working with within the Tea Party movement that didn't want us to talk about anything faith-based.
And most of those people now, by the way, that we were working with, they're all idiots because they support Trump.
Yes. Must mention that.
Okay, good.
Must mention that.
No, but they only wanted to talk about fiscal responsibility, limited government, and free markets.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
But those are great things.
But you can't put those three things in a bucket and leave them outside of the other 50 things that we need to talk about that make this country great, or the things that are going down the wrong path.
And they said don't bring up social issues, which of course is like dog whistle for like, please don't mention abortion.
Yeah, or don't mention welfare, or don't mention marriage,
or inner cities,
or religion,
or race,
or sidewalks.
Or rainbows.
Yeah, no rainbows.
So, it was like no chance that any of those topics were ever supposed to come up. And unfortunately, I attribute a lot of that early dogmatic nature of the Tea Party for a lot of the reason that we see our politics.
Well, because they were looking at it from a political standpoint. You mentioned yesterday on the radio, you said that people are looking at a way to win,
right.
and then we were looking at a way how we win.
How we should
right.
win.
How we should win, right? So the Tea Party group that we were working with on the radio, we're trying to put you and I in a box. And, of course, if you ever looked at Trey and I, there's not many boxes that you could be able to fit us in.
I mean, there's refrigerator boxes.
You can only fit up one of us in a refrigerator box.
There we go. There's let's see what else. What other kind? There's washing machine boxes.
Yeah.
And then there's
sea cans.
Morgan buildings.
Yes. What's a Morgan building?
That's one of those little outside things that you keep like your lawnmower in. And
I thought you were talking like a FEMA tarps. FEMA
tarps
yes.
will cover us completely, but barely. Maybe 2. But yeah, so he put us in a box and he said, only talk about these things. And so we were trying to kind of make our niche in showing that like everything, there is universal absolute truth. In fact, let me give you an example. So I take the streetcar, I get off at the corner of Canal and Carondelet just a little while ago.
Right.
There's a dude sitting on the corner. I see this old guy sitting on the corner all the time with his bullhorn, and he's out there just preaching the gospel, right?
Right.
I mean, look, I'm like, man, that's a tough gig.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, have you ever tried to like preach the Bible on a street corner in New Orleans?
Negative, Ghost Rider.
That's a tough
You've done it?
I've never done it because I know how tough it is. And I'm like, man, I don't want to do that.
You thought sales is hard. Try selling God.
To a bunch of drunks coming off of Bourbon Street.
Right.
They're like, I just saw God over there. So I see this kid on a bike, and he is just giving this old guy the business. I mean, he's tuning him up with all kind of the Bible's not true and all this other stuff, right? And I'm like, I got to get into this. So I just went at him for like 30
there you go.
minutes.
Go and you get yourself in trouble.
Corner. We drew a whole crowd around
Come
us.
on, dude.
It was like B-boy style. Like I thought we were about to start like battling with dancing and stuff.
Like break out the cardboard.
Yeah, so anyway, so that's what kind of the Battlefield Live is really all about. It's what Chris and I have always been about, and that's truth. We want to try to bring truth, absolute truth, where absolute truth absolutely explains or defends a situation. I think it's very applicable to apply it at that place, and that consequently they weren't interested in principles and founding virtues and the type of morality necessary to keep people free.
But the thing is that all the truths that we seek to find make up the mosaic of the whole picture. Right. So the people that wanted us to only look at certain tiles in the mosaic, it didn't finish making the picture that we need to really look at. Right?
Yeah. And I think that probably contributed to why there wasn't the greater counter transformation, if you will. You know, we talk about the transformation that Barack Obama said he wanted to bring about. Right. And so the Tea Party was kind of this natural counter transformation that was like, no, let's transform the country, but let's transform it back to kind of the virtuous beginning virtues and values and principles.
But don't you find it interesting that the fact that they tried to put us in those boxes and that we didn't want to be put in that, we kind of got isolated from it? If you look at the result, I think they were successful in doing that. Right. Because all we're hearing about in this campaign is the things that we're not prepared to talk about from the left. In other words, let me restate that. Right. So we're talking about fiscal issues on the campaign trail, right? Right. You got Ted Cruz, Donald Trump, and Kasich all talking about fiscal issues and things of that nature. But the minute the left comes and wants to talk about abortion, which they always do, we're not prepared to talk about it.
No preparation.
Why? Because we don't want to talk about it. Because they don't want us to talk about it. They don't want us to talk about religion. So the minute the left, what does the left bring up all the time? They want to constantly bring up religion, and they want to bring up abortion. Why? Because we're not prepared to talk about it because we censored ourselves.
All right, well, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about 2 years ago, Chris, $15 an hour minimum wage laws was laughed at. It was a punchline. Right. Not so much today, so we're going to talk about that. That and more of your phone calls, 504-556-9696. This is the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey on WGSO 990 AM.
All right, I want to thank you for joining us on the Battlefield. You're listening to Chris and Trey, and we're at WGSO. This is actually pretty fun. So if you want to give us a call, you can call us 504-556-9696, and we are in the Go Day Media Studios.
That's right.
Yes, if you're looking for any type of social media assistants. In other words, if you were like me, and I've gotten a lot of help to prevent me from being this way any longer, but if you were like me and you were kind of the dummy out there on social media and you have a business or just even your own social circles, you want to expand your Facebook followers or Twitter followers, go to goday.media and reach out to Rob and Melissa.
They made a good point. They reached out to us and they said, look, most people today don't even go to your website.
Yeah.
They hear about your business. They're going to look on Twitter. They're going to look on Facebook.
Yeah, because it's changing all the time.
It just figure if you're not there, you're not relevant.
Right. So you can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/LanternsBuzz. You can follow us as well on Twitter, twitter.com/LanternsBuzz. And go to the website, lanterns.buzz. And you find all of our information there where we do our other shows as well as what we write. We do write a lot, including our book, Deus Ex Machina, The Progression of Secular Socialism. You can pick up that book at Amazon.com. Just do a keyword search for Chris Pilier or Trey Roberts, and you can pick up that book right now on Kindle for $9.99. And if you like me and you like to actually have the book in hand, you can get the hardcover or the the paperback. So Trey, bring us back. What are we talking about now? So you want to get into the?
Yeah. So first of all, 504-556-9696. Do you think we should have $15 minimum wage laws? 2 years ago, this was back in 2012. So now really 3-4 years ago, this was laughable. It was a punchline. Could you imagine if a city passed a law requiring their minimum wage jobs to pay these people $15
right,
and a minimum wage? And people laughed and everything, right? So I get this email. If some of you may not know Star Parker, some of you may know she has an organization called CURE, the Center for Urban Renewal and Education. And one of the things that she talks about is how this whole time that this whole almost laughable debate is going on, conservative pundits and politicians, they all dismiss kind of this fight for $15 movement as laughable. But the entire time, progressives were organizing and planting routes in cities to pass these types of laws, and 15 cities nationally have now passed these laws. $15 minimum wages.
Wow.
In fact, California and New York, two of the largest states in the country, had just passed within the last day statewide $15 minimum wage laws. Progressives, right? Progressives have achieved what was unthinkable just 3 years ago. But here's a quote. She quotes Thomas Sowell, and I think he's right. The fact is that this isn't exactly socialism. What this really is this is fascism. Here's what he says. What President Obama has been pushing for and moving toward is more insidious. Government control of the economy while leaving ownership in the private hands. That way, politicians get to call the shots, but when their bright ideas lead to disaster, they can always blame those who own businesses in the private sector.
Right.
So, Chris, if socialism is the government taking over land, labor, and capital,
right,
then government forcing these types of rules, regulations, and laws while allowing the private sector to maintain ownership,
right,
that really is more fascistic, right?
Yeah. What ends up happening, though, is how do you institute socialism, right? You have to pass laws.
Right.
So let's back away just a second, and we definitely want to continue on to the conversation about minimum wage laws. But this brings about a greater issue, right?
Right.
Laws are meant to be put into place to give people guidelines in order to maintain civil society. That's basically what a law is.
Right.
Okay. So the problem with laws are when people react and try to create a law to make people more civil. That's not the way it works.
Right.
I mean, if people are breaking laws, you don't create more laws to prevent people from breaking laws. It's like goes back to the gun issue.
Right.
If criminals are out shooting people, you're not going to create a law that's going to prevent criminals from shooting people. Does that make sense?
Because criminals by nature break laws.
Right.
What makes them criminal.
Right. So, look, I get a little philosophical when we talk about the law.
A little esoteric.
A little esoteric, right? So I got an article that we wrote on lanterns.buzz. Actually, it was quite a while ago. I want to say it was back 2013. Wow, in November.
Well, we've been doing this for a minute now.
Yeah, we've been doing it for a little while. And it's Frederick Bastiat. You know Frederick Bastiat?
Yeah, the law.
Right. So he wrote the law. And
which, by the way, Star Parker said in a closed door meeting, it was one of the absolute must reads for anybody who wants to understand.
And you know what I did, Trey? I actually went and got it on audiobook. It was very easy. I mean, it was a quick listen.
It's a very short book.
Right. Because I'm a little challenged.
Powerful. Right.
So there's part of the book. It's called The Results of Legal Plunder. When we talk about plunder, we're talking about stealing.
I think about Walter Williams.
Yeah.
He's got some stuff on legal plunder.
He's tough. So here's a quote from out of the book from Bastiat. It says, "It is impossible to introduce into society a greater change and a greater evil than the conversation of the law into an instrument of plunder. What are the consequences of such perversion? It would require volumes to describe them all. Thus, we must content ourselves with pointing out the most striking. In the first place, it erases from everyone's conscience the distinction between justice and injustice. No society can resist." I can't even. This thing's goofing off on me.
That's all right. You press the little thing and it's got the little arrow on it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no. You press the trackball there, and so there you go. Now it's
there we go. Okay, so sorry about that, folks. So it says, no society can exist unless the law is respected to a certain degree. The safest way to make laws respected is to make them respectable. When law and morality contradict each other, the citizen has the cruel alternative of either losing his moral sense or losing his respect for the law. These two evils are of equal consequence, and it would be difficult for a person to choose between them. So isn't it's interesting how how he plays the law as well as with morality. So if you have an immoral people, there's no law that can protect this. So
that's correct. Well, let's look at it from the flip side.
Right.
If you, for instance, if you are a kind of let's say you're a religious person, right?
Right.
So you have kind of this self-governing aspect that one day you're gonna be held to a higher accountability, right?
Right.
So you don't really need a law passed that says that murder is wrong,
right?
Because you have this this belief system that tells you that this is a natural law,
right?
So no matter how many laws you pass, that law is never going to affect me. I don't ever need that law to be written,
right? Because
I'm never going to murder someone,
right?
Might kill them,
right?
Self-defense, time of war, breaking into my house, something like that. But it's different from murder. Right? So the more moral you are, the less you actually need the law.
Right.
Some people might even argue that the less moral our society becomes, the greater the need for law.
Right.
Because you have to have some type of – it's like the story we did the other day on the artificial intelligence.
Right.
It was raw intelligence with no morality.
Right.
So by the end of 24 hours, this thing was loving Hitler.
Right.
And talking dirty on Twitter.
A dirty Twitterer.
A dirty Twitterer.
A dirty bird.
Yeah, no, that's true. So it was a failed experiment from Microsoft, right?
Right.
So I want to bring it back to the $15.
Right.
And what's the impact? Should we give people $15 just because they demand it?
Right. And we'll tie that back into the law.
Give us a call. 504-556-9696 is the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey on 990 AM WGSO.
We're here to fix the machine.
Battlefield Live. You're listening to the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey from We Are America Radio, Red State Talk Radio, Buzz Radio Network, and we're at WGSO Studios, which is the GoDay.media studios. So make sure you check out the website, GoDay.media, if you're looking for any social media help as well as some branding. And we were talking about, Trey, man, my brain was just working throughout the break here.
About time.
Yeah, it takes about at least a half an hour for get it warmed up. It's like an old car.
Well, it looks like you're about halfway through that Red Bull anyway. So
yeah, actually, I finished that sucker, man.
Oh man,
yeah, that's why I'm all amped up.
You got your wings.
So we were talking about how you have to have a moral people in order to have a moral country, right? In other words,
that's the theory.
You can have all the laws you want, but if you don't have moral people that respect the law, you're just going to have incivility and lawlessness, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
So the biggest fight that takes place on the political stage, for the most part, is who determines the morality, right?
Who's right or wrong is going to be the right and wrong of society.
That's right. And so if there is an established right and wrong, and the way that you change the way that right and wrong is looked at is you have to make right and wrong relative, right? In other words, if you say something's right and I don't agree that it's right, then we have to either I got to follow what you say is right, or I come up with my own truth and say, well, it's just right for you, but it's not right for me.
Well, certain things. I mean,
right.
If we're sitting here talking about this happened literally a little over an hour ago. I had this conversation on the street with a gutter punk.
I was watching you.
Okay. And he said he gave me the same exact thing that you just said.
Right.
So I will respond to you the same way I responded to him.
Right.
Can we both agree that murder is absolutely wrong?
I agree.
Okay. He wouldn't.
Okay. So he wouldn't?
He was like, no, I'm not. I don't believe in absolutes.
Which street corner was that on?
This was Carondelet and Canal Street.
Okay, I'm parking on the other end.
I asked him, are you absolutely certain that there are no absolutes? He said yes. I said, well, you just disproved your own point. You said there are no absolutes, and you're absolutely sure about that.
Yeah.
So I think it's about what it is. If we're talking about Monster energy drinks are better than Red Bull, I don't know that there's going to be a truth in that.
Right. So let's break this down. So if your morality, and I'm using this term, I'm playing along, right? Okay. So if your morality and my morality are completely different, right?
Okay.
So that's the way that you impregnate a society is the best way to explain it, and try to create fundamental change, right? You take the morality and you break it down and you try to transform it into another morality. That's
okay.
All right, so you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
So a revolution, let's say we want to go into another country and have a violent revolution.
You're
right?
using a little dialectical.
That is correct.
What is that called?
Dialectic process.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Hegelian dialectics here on the Battlefield Live with Chris and Trey.
So the bottom line is that in order to change a society, you have to break down their morality. You have to destroy their morality and create a new one.
So are you saying that $15 minimum wage is immoral?
Yes, absolutely it is immoral.
According to what? I mean, where in Scripture does it say, "Thou shalt not pay"?
You don't have to look to Scripture.
All right.
You can actually say that Scripture models natural law.
Okay, well, where in the Quran?
Okay. No, I don't read the Quran.
Oh, well, you should.
You read the Quran.
I did. I actually read the Quran.
No, the bottom line is that if you force somebody to pay $15 an hour to a worker, which I'll use Marx's term, the worker.
So if you pass a law,
that
making
what all right, so what's if the people that are employing these people can't afford it, what do?
They're going to have to cut people.
Right. They won't hire them.
So they're like, "Hey, I got too many workers because I used to be able to pay two people what I'm now paying one person."
Right.
So I'm going to get rid of two people so I can keep one person.
Right. So in essence, you're distorting intrinsic value of that particular
Yeah,
person.
I'm saying one person's more valuable than the other two simply out of necessity, and my bottom line as a business owner.
Right. So what the government has essentially done is distorted the value of that particular worker, because that worker, I mean, we're not saying anything bad about that individual worker. We try not to hurt any feelings.
Right.
The bottom line is that worker is not worth $15 an hour.
And you're going back to your values argument.
Yes.
Not values as in like beliefs, but what is someone's value?
Right. There's intrinsic value in every single. We are a resource to our economy. Right?
Right.
So each one of us is a part of an economy, right? And we have intrinsic value.
Right.
The minute that you distort that, you distort the economy. And what ends up happening is the law, it's just like we talked about the levees in New Orleans.
Right.
Right. One of the things we always talk about was what's happening to the coastline. Well, the coastline's not being populated with soil anymore. Right, because the river doesn't overflow its banks
and deposit good silt and
right. So as we try to prevent our city from flooding by putting up levees all around, because when the river goes up and down,
right.
in essence, nature's going to take its course, and we're going to flood anyway because we're destroying the coastline.
Yeah, and so some farm up in Missouri floods, so they raise the levees up that way, just put more strain down here. Right.
So nature's going to take its course, and
you don't want to work for the Army Corps. This is about you have no desire to work for the Army Corps of Engineers.
Well, it illustrates that nature is going to take its course no matter what. So what happens is this person that didn't have a whole lot of intrinsic value has less intrinsic value because he's not employed anymore.
Okay, well, one of the fundamental tenets of conservatism is the belief that people are uniquely valuable.
We are unique, but we have to find our value.
Okay, so why then does it appear that over the last several years, why does it appear as though conservatives have abandoned certain areas that progressives have just marched right in, camped out, taken the ground, and we see now across the country in 2 of the biggest states and in 15 other cities, they are now these municipalities and cities are now mandating $15 minimum wage laws.
Because the architecture of a democracy has taken over from the architecture of a republic. We have politicians in power now that are looking to these little low-hanging fruit things like the minimum wage laws in order to be able to garner favorability from the constituency, right? So what they're doing is they're saying, okay, well, all right, we'll just pass this little stupid thing so I can get another maybe 1.5% of voters to be able to vote for us. So it goes back to the same argument that you said that, it's not winning, it's about how you win. We can articulate the $15 minimum wage argument, but the problem is that we live in this society now where you live at 145 characters. So you can't explain why the $15 minimum wage is stupid on Twitter, right?
So now for 50 years, we've seen this progression, if you will,
right,
of minorities becoming the major, the majority of people in America's metro cities, right?
Right.
And now we have candidates who run for president as open socialists.
Right.
And progressives are going to celebrate the lie that America is a country that has no more opportunity for those very same minorities.
Right.
So what can conservatives do? We'll take a look at that here. Can we as conservatives, can we do anything? How do we get into this debate? How do we get into this culture, if you will, where it seems that we have lost a tremendous amount of ground?
Well, first, I mean, it's what's
going to happen? What do you think is going to happen as a result?
Well, what's going to end up happening is we're going to get the $15 minimum wage
here in New Orleans.
I think so, and the reason why is because we failed to get into the schools and educate people on simple things. The bottom line is we shouldn't be going to school to become workers, like Marx said.
Now, see, that's a whole nother show.
We should be going to school to learn how to be a business owner.
Well, you should be. This is why I educate my girls at home.
Right.
We're teaching them how to learn.
Right.
Not necessarily what to learn.
That's right.
We're equipping them with the tools of education as opposed to telling them what they should learn.
Yeah.
Schools don't do that anymore.
No, they don't. They tell you how does the best way to get a job.
And in fact, progressive education has probably prevented that for a very long time.
Because the idea of progressivism is to build infrastructure of workers that work for, well, at the end of the day, when you're looking at a socialist country, is working for the government is really what it boils down to, for the greater good. But the bottom line is you have all these unions that are basically trying to work with the schools in order to create workers for them to bring money to them and create this utopia here in the United States. So, all right, so look, we're going to take a real quick break on the battlefield, and we'll be back right after this short pause. So stick with us, and
Tony, when we come back,
we'll take some callers.
We're coming to you, so don't go anywhere. Yeah, this is the one I was talking about.
Yeah. I like this. So
it's not the remix version.
It's not the remix version. It's a little Layla there from Eric Claps. Look, I want to thank you all for listening to us on the battlefield. This is our inaugural show on WGSO, and it is a pleasure to be in the Big Easy So, look, I want to make sure you, if you enjoy what you're listening to and you like the banter that Trey and I are having here on the WGSO990 AM, make sure you go to lanterns.buzz, the website. We have a ton of information that we carry there that parallels similar conversation. And you can also listen to some of our podcasts there. Radio.lanterns.buzz is the podcast URL. And also go to Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at LanternsBuzz. And you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/LanternsBuzz. So we're gonna talk with Tony.
Yeah, we're gonna go to Tony from Algiers Point. Tony, you're the first phone caller on the Battlefield Live on WGSO.
Well, what a celebration, man. Seems like I can't, sometimes, no matter how far I drive away, I can't get rid of you.
Listen, I'm everywhere.
What's up, Tony?
Well, congratulations. Good to hear. Good topics and stuff. You were talking about giving away to 15. I'll take 15. Do I come in and get it right now?
Listen, I don't know if New Orleans is going to do it yet, but you live inside of the zip code known as Orleans Parish. 15 cities right now have passed, across the country, have passed these mandatory $15 minimum wage laws. So you'd have to think, right, being the quintessential inner city, high crime, low education, limited economic opportunity, cronyism of a city that New Orleans represents, you'd have to think this is pretty soon, wouldn't you?
Oh, it sounds like a nice place that maybe, what's his name? The Mafia might want to come move in, Fidel or something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what this sounds like.
Now, I want to take you a few minutes ago, you all were talking earlier, and you brought up something about artificial intelligence, and then you were talking about training your kids and teaching them the right things and all of that.
Right.
So I want to, how can you tell when you're talking to another human being whether they have artificial intelligence or authentic intelligence?
Go with that one, Trey. You got this.
What is stock in Microsoft?
Dude.
I should have gave the Cliff Clavin answer. Who are people that have never been in my kitchen?
Oh.
No, listen. Okay, so intelligence in and of itself, I'm of the belief that, like the second law of thermodynamics states, everything entropies. It goes from organized to chaotic, right? Nothing goes the opposite direction.
Dude, you just got all scientific.
I know, right? So I think here in 2016, human beings are less intelligent than our ancestral predecessors, and I don't mean the apes that monkey man scientists think that we can.
And a lot of it has to be because we had to be more intelligent back then. Now we have all these devices and things that.
Well, I think we are more educated today, but I think we are less intelligent.
Hey, Trey, let me ask you. That's a good point. Are we talking about an absence of accumulative knowledge or an absence of the ability to discern and ascertain and unscramble what's right in front of you?
Well, if a person has not a renewed spirit in them, they will not be able to discern or be wise. So you have a lot of fools running around.
Right.
Well, remember, you and Chris just said a minute ago that my truth may not be your truth, and your truth may not be his truth, and this guy's truth, and I'm changing this truth for that truth. So remember, what intelligence is somebody using to manufacture truth? Is it authentic or artificial, or is it delusional, or are they schizophrenic? What are they?
Give us a more specific. Let
me ask Tony a question. Tony, do you believe that that you can actually find the absolute truth in whatever issue that you're confronting? In other words, if you're trying to determine what has created the sun, that if you searched hard enough and you had the ability to go out there and find it, you could actually find the truth on what created the actual sun. Do you believe that?
No, I don't think scientifically I could.
Well, you may not be able to do it scientifically yourself, but do you think us as a human culture that we could actually find that truth?
Well, gee, as a human culture, we could find it under certain ways. And the one way that I would do that, if I drag the doctrines and the teachings of the Creator, my truth, and I believe what my Creator said, then I believe He hung the sun in the sky.
Okay, so all right, so let's play with that for a second here. So you said that is your truth. So if you believe that is your truth, do you believe that somebody else has another truth that may not include God? That it's true, or do you believe that you have the absolute truth? No.
At that point, I would proclaim that I believe I have the absolute truth.
Okay.
Now, how can I have a debate with a guy who tells me an avatar put the sun up there?
Well, that's the thing. At some point, you have to be able to use logic. You have to be able to use intelligent conversation in order to be able to drill down to the absolute truth. That's what this program's about, the battlefield. We always want to engage people that have opposing opinions to us, because at some point, we're going to get to the point where one of us is going to say, yeah, you're right, and yeah, you're wrong. That's the way that truth is found. What happens is that people have their own truths. You never get to anything that's true. Only thing that you get is that, well, I'm just going to disagree with you, and that's fine. And then everything breaks down and kind of goes back to what Trey was talking about, is that we get down to this how would you say it?
Second law of thermodynamics.
Right.
Everything entropies.
That's right. So you get entropy, which basically breaks down, and if you want to look at it from a spiritual point of view, like if you look to the Bible and Babel, we can't communicate any longer. Right?
All right. Now let me introduce this to you.
Right.
When you reach the absolute truth, or the revelation of what is true, the other person who did not believe that was true runs into two categories, can run into either category. They are either humbled or shamed.
That's right.
That's very true.
Right, and that is the truth. So it's not that I do that to hurt them.
Right.
Because even Jesus, by the revelation of truth, either shamed you or humbled you.
Right, so let's bring this back to the $15 an hour argument. So someone that's out there that's making $7 an hour or $8. What is the minimum wage now?
I think $7.25.
All right, let's just say they're making $10 an hour, and they're out there advocating for a $15 an hour minimum wage. Okay, and they believe that the truth is that if they get a $15 an hour, everybody will get $15 an hour, and all will be peachy, and that's their truth. They think that's what's going to happen. And what happens is Subway, if they're working at Subway or they're working somewhere else, they get the wages raised on them, and they end up getting laid off. Then all of a sudden they're either humbled or what? Shamed.
Well, and look, and take it to like today, the story I was talking about on the street. After that guy fielded me with all these questions, and I answered them all. I had prepared myself. I stood ready to answer his questions, and he had run out of questions. I asked him two simple questions, and when he couldn't answer them, and he couldn't come into agreement with me that murder is absolutely wrong because it would have disproven his belief that there is no absolute truth, then I approached him and said, I took the humble road and said, look, I'm not here to shame you. I'm here for a reason, and that's to win you to my side. I'm not trying to put up a wall between us to where we go apart against each other. I'm trying to win you to the truth.
Well, in actuality, Trey, if you're not trying to win him to you, in my discussions with people over debates and issues and arguments and whatever you want to talk about, I want to bring them to the master.
That's right. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate the phone call.
Thank you, Tony.
We're up against we're kind of like wrapping it up here. But I mean, that's the bottom line. The idea on the Battlefield Live, it's the battlefield of ideas. You know, we joke about having the right answer all the time. But there is a humility in the fact that we search for the truth.
And there is a right answer.
And there is absolutely a right answer. And we may not be at that place at the moment, but we're going to continue to seek it and try to find it and bring it to you every single Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m.
That's exactly right. So if you enjoyed the show, make sure you go to lanterns.buzz and check us out there on that website. You can also follow us on Twitter at LanternsBuzz and Facebook at facebook.com/Landon's Buzz. I want to thank you for joining us on the program, and we'll be back next Saturday at 4 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM. Thank you.